Hi, I'm Elda Mona. I wanted to come to you today to talk about something called triggers. I don't know how many of you, or including myself, we've all experienced triggers. What I mean by triggers is, it's something that when somebody pulls that trigger, where you had a devastating experience, some or all of those responses arise, come back. And they are real and they are toxic because they were meant to really shut you down. And so what they do, they take you backwards to whatever the original thing happened, and you get those same responses again. Where you were wounded initially, NCIS would call residue. Residue is left behind, or evidence of an incident. The enemy keeps the evidence, even though you have forgiven the perpetrator, and even forgiven yourself if you did something yourself that was devastating or wounding. So he seeks out another perpetrator to use. So God obviously brought you out of the first one, which was meant to shut you down. But the enemy tries it again and again and again. Because his same goal is to shut you down and shut you up about this gospel or about your testimony or how you made it through, or how you made it over through this victory. And although the new wound inflicted is not as devastating as the very first one, but it still brings you back to those same responses that you needed to be delivered from. Sometimes it can be as small as someone saying something very trivial, either about you or to you. But remember, an avalanche can start with a small shift of ice far beyond beneath the surface, and suddenly you're covered over your head, and it leaves people who are watching scratching their head as to what happened to you. It didn't seem that bad. But what you realize is that you are still in need of the finished work. That finished work is deliverance. If you have anything that keeps coming back, it usually is due to that trigger that was sent you sailing back. And you start thinking to yourself, nobody wants to hear me. I'm just going to shut down. Maybe you will even think that to some people your feelings don't matter, or you don't matter. Maybe you feel like you just can't make it any further. These are lies that the enemy uses as bullets against you. But God, but God. The Lord reverses all those bullets with truth. You are who God says you are. You are not defined by past responses. The answer? More of God and less of you. Less of your flesh that is alive and kicking, and more of His Spirit. So you have to be renewed in your mind. When the Lord allows these things to surface, and I do say that He allows them to surface because many times we feel that we have gotten over these things. These things are so far behind me, they do not exist for me anymore. And sometimes we don't realize that they do still exist for us until something happens, until that trigger happens, and then it sends you spiraling downward. And you have to humbly submit and surrender unto the Lord and allow Him to deliver you from things the enemy holds a residue to in your life. It can hold you hostage. It's no wonder that the Lord urged me recently to just fully come back to the experience of setting that time aside, soaking Him in. A time set aside for just Him and me. Learning to hear Him all over again, to be led by Him, to experience His divine love and intervention. Remember, be spiritually aware. Sometimes behind the biggest smiles are some broken places. And live the joys in your life. This has been Mona Songbird, up close and personal.